Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Moonstone. You know, Moonstone, it's your classic Knights versus Druids game.
Well, you're sort of like working for the Druids.
I guess you're working for the Druids. Could you see yourself being a Druid?
No. Well, I mean, what does that mean exactly, right? I mean, like, Druids are like, they're like religious people, but it's some sort of like cult or whatever. Right. So yes. In that area, sure, I could, because I mean, they have cool cloaks.
Right.
They usually have the daggers that are kind of squiggly based on poison.
I'm reminded of your sleeping tunic.
The tunic is like, is cloak-like. I have dabbled in the mystic arts, you know, so I have a cult library.
The cool thing about druidry, I believe is the correct term, is you can, it's a lot like witchcraft. You can kind of make it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. And
nobody can tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
So if you want to just like, you know, hobble around in the woods dressed in your sleeping tunic and every once in a while approach a standing stone, you can say you're a druid. On the other hand, if you want to do a little bit of the old human sacrifice, who can say that's wrong because you're a druid? True,
it's because it's part of my religion. I will say, when I lived up on Mud Mountain, I didn't consider it druidry at the time, but there was many a night where I cavorted in the woods in the sleeping tunic with nature.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, maybe the toilet was broke or something. I'd be out there.
Yeah.
You know, or I dropped something over the porch.
How far into the woods did you explore in the environs of Mud Mountain?
I'd say I'd been through all the woods.
Really?
Yeah. But it's at the Mud Mountains, it's rocky terrain up there, you know. And also, there's a lot of gangbangers up there, so it wasn't odd. That's something you didn't get much in the Druid legends of old. You know, I told you that one time I came out, I used to drive a Dodge Caravan.
I remember that,
because much like many Druids, I was a little low on funds, the tithing was down, and I walked out one time and some local thugs were trying to steal my hood ornament. And I looked at him, I'm like, you're trying to steal the hood ornament of a Dodge Caravan. You have hit rock bottom as thugs.
What's the aftermarket value?
It can't be high.
on a Chrysler.
And the thing is, I went up to run them off, and they didn't run off. They just casually left. Except for this one guy. I'm like, you realize that if you wore that on a necklace, you'd look like the biggest dork on earth. He's like, I don't know what that is. I didn't know what Dodge was.
No.
He, you know, can you imagine taking someone off a minivan? Boy, thugs have fought a long way since the 50s, that's for sure.
Now, was this when you used to park down at the bottom of the mountain?
No, this is at the top.
They climbed all the way up there like, listen,
well, it's not like they don't need ropes. I drove a Dodge Caravan up there, so clearly it can be done.
It seems like a trip you would make on purpose. Like they're like, listen, Saturday night it's going down. We're hitting the Dodge Caravan.
You know, the weird thing about living up there is that you never knew if there was a deer or a coyote or something frolicking in the woods, or there was a meth head rolling around in the throes of anguish or happiness out near the woods. You never know. That's Charleston for you.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. So, you know, in closing,
I also had a big sword up there.
Yeah, well,
you know, same thing.
You could be sort of a druid. You could dual class.
Like a cleric.
Yeah. I think that's. Listen, did you ever have any shields? Because everybody's got a sword.
You know, I never had a shield. I did have I had a trash can lid one time. This was on the mountain, and we cut holes in it and put like a gimmick through it so you can hold it like this.
I thought you were gonna like make the armholes and you get in the trash can.
No. You'd look like a real tool if you did that, wouldn't you? Here comes the trash knight, you know?
That'd be a great wrestling gimmick.
The trash knight?
Yeah.
Why? I guess you couldn't be pinned because they couldn't roll you over on your back.
That's right, and you've got a gimmick built in. You don't have to go for the trash can. You are the trash can.
Yep. Just ram yourself into people. Yeah. The problem is you're in the can, see?
Well, then,
Also, this trash can's a crumple, and then you die. So this ass.
I'm not saying there's no downsides.
No kidding.
Aaron, let's talk about Moonstone.
Oh, man. Boat. It's Moonstone, man.
Yeah, it is.
Now, we covered this one, I think it was back in episode 31 or 34. It's early. It's funny to go back and listen. Sometimes it's not that funny. I'll think about it. Because you never know what you're going to get. But I always like to, when we do these, like, retrospectives or second looks or whatever, I like to go back and hear what young, up-and-coming boat nerd had to say about the game and our opinions. I'll get more to that later. But I did listen to it this week. So This was a game released in 91, and it was published by Mindscape, of all people. This thing had 3 discs and supported up to 2 simultaneous players, but you could have 4 people play it, which is probably the optimum way to go, because it'd be more fun that way. And this one is an interesting one, Bo. This was sort of the brainchild of a couple dudes, Rob Anderson and Kevin Hoare. So these guys both did stuff that we actually like, right? I'll give you a few. They both worked on Techno Cop.
We've talked about that game for years, but we still have not covered it on the show.
I thought we covered Techno Cop. Did we never cover what? Techno Cop's a game I always had a kick out of. Rob Anderson worked on Fiendish Freddy's Big Top, which we both enjoy. And that video won't die. I see it all the time, and it's always surging back to the top. And they both worked on a game called Ultimate Ride, which I've never heard of.
I think that's a driving game.
Or motors, I assume it is. Maybe they're riding a horse. Yeah. I don't know. They also, Rob Anderson also was part of the graphics team. He had 3 or 4 people working on this. And the music was done by the legendary Richard Joseph Boat, who worked on Cannon Fodder, the James Ponds, the Chaos Engine, sensible stuff.
Tons of stuff.
Barbarian. And so this game is a funny game the way it came out. So let's just get into a little bit of how this game was released. This game, it took a couple years to work on it. They thought it would come together quicker, but it took them a while. And I found a couple interviews online with the 2 designers of this game. And when they put this together, guess what? They were playing a lot of D&D. Stunning.
Makes sense.
And it's funny because if you play the game, one of the cities in this is called Waterdeep. I mean, they don't hide the fact that there's a lot of D&D influence in this. They were also playing a lot of a game called Dark Tower. That's why I'm looking up. Somewhere up on my shelf there, I've got the Tower from Dark Tower, which is a great board game. Have you ever played that one? Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. You guys covered it on ARG.
We did. That's a good place if you want to find out about it. But it's a board. The game is a round board with a tower in the middle, and the board is split into 4 parts. Sound familiar? It's very similar to the map system in this game. And it's 4 players, and you try to get keys to unlock the center of the map, which is exactly what you do in this game. So they lovingly borrowed quite a bit from Dark Tower.
What an homage.
This thing, by the way, came in this huge box, and it was pricey. How we ended up with this, I'll never know. It's supposed to be like the only Christmas we got one year. Maybe it was a double gift or something. But we ended up getting it. It was a fun game. The problem with Dark Tower is it has 18 billion little pieces. Need I say more?
They get lost easily.
Yeah. So, again, they were into D&D and stuff when they made this, and they were also into like a lot of sword play movies, your Conan, stuff like that. A lot of the audio samples in this game, they just took off their VCR, and they said the number one culprit, they took a ton of these things off Red Sonja. If you ever saw that, it's the Brigitte Nielsen sword. It's based on a comic.
What's Brigitte?
You never heard of her?
Oh, it's a person?
Yeah.
That's a weird name.
You ever seen Rocky IV with the Russian?
Yeah.
That was his wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but she played Red Sonja, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it too. It was supposed to be Conan-ish, but you know how that goes. There was some licensing, some blah, blah. So basically, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays like unnamed, it's like Bowman. It's like, and Brigitte Nielsen is the killer redhead, sword woman. They horked a lot of audio from this, according to the producers of the game. They, of course, weren't involved in some of the decisions. Like, for example, Mindscape brought in Richard Joseph to do the audio. Good choice, by the way. And both the dudes are like, oh, yeah, this was great. So one of the things they wanted to do, if you've ever played Fiendish Freddy, it's funny comparing the two, but they're really comparable. And one of the ways they're comparable is Fiendish Freddy was another game that had really nice, like, beautiful, colorful graphics. They were very articulate and animated, and funny things happen when you, like, screwed up, and in some ways, I mean, it's funny in this game when you screw up, but it's not really ha-ha funny because you get slaughtered. And what they wanted to do, the goal of the game, they said, was to make it so when you died in this, it would be entertaining. Sort of like Dragon's Lair, you know. So that was their plan. So what they did was they took deluxe paint, stunning, right? And they made 18 kabillion sketches, and they literally were just digitizing stuff in. So there's tons and tons of art in this, plus tons that didn't even get used. So like there's a lot of stuff that's still, presumably sitting in a notebook somewhere, because these guys talk about having tons and tons of extra stuff. Over 1,000 drawings were done for this, according to the guys. So when this came out, when they were trying to see what they're going to do with this, Mindscape was shopping it around. And this is sort of a well-told tale for this game, but it's incredibly violent. And we'll get to the blow-by-blows of it. But what happened was, they were like, okay, here's our game. Mindscape was like, this looks good, let's check this out. So they showed the states, okay? Well, at the time, even this seems crazy to me, but maybe you'll know, and you could comment on this. Toys R Us was like a huge player in software. And I have a vague recollection of them having software, but I mean like games, like console game stuff, but I don't remember them carrying a ton of software. Do you remember this?
Well, I don't, because I'm young. But I've seen pictures of Toys R Us displays from the early 80s where they covered Atari computers. Yeah. And it's like an Atari gaming wonderland.
Really?
Yeah. They had tons and tons of stuff. Now, by the time I came along, Barboursville Toys R Us, it was all console. It was all NES and stuff like that. I never remember seeing computer stuff there, but maybe it was regional differences.
Right, yeah. And we only really had the one Toys R Us around for a long time, and I didn't go in there that much. But anyway, Toys R Us took a look at this and we're like, hell no, we're not selling that. And so Mindscape was like, it is kind of violent. And they're like, listen, we've got a thing in there that you can turn the violence off. And they're like, that's not going to do it.
Right.
So they were like, you know what we're going to do? We're just not going to release this in the U.S. market.
Interesting.
So they didn't. So this was out.
It's kind of interesting because Mindscape, they originally started as an edutainment company. So they really pivoted here.
They did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they started out, and of course later on they're like, listen, if we do some other stuff, we can get some more money.
Yeah.
And so then they released Deja Vu, Shadowgate, Captain Blood. So, but maybe it's kind of odd that they would choose this particular publisher to bring this game out.
Yeah. It is strange, but so they were like, okay, the U.S. is out. What do we got? We're going to release this thing in Europe. Well, Germany was like, no. And we're not buying it. They had their, the list of banned games. So this got added to the list. Now, if you nose around online, most of the sources say this is still on the list and still banned. I don't know if that's true. Because I remember they were starting to peel some of that crap off a couple years ago.
There's one thing that I read. I was reading one of the magazine reviews, and they were talking about how gruesome the game was. And I've never read this about an Amiga game before, so maybe somebody can comment on YouTube what this means. It says, it's so gruesome that Mindscape has given the game a voluntary 12 certificate. I don't know what a voluntary 12 certificate is, if that was like an early rating system. Because we've reviewed tons of Amiga games before, and I've never heard about any sort of a rating system come out.
Yeah, I don't know. You got me on that one. So, anyway, this game didn't sell that well, I guess is the bottom line, because it wasn't released hardly anywhere. I didn't realize this either. At the time, in Europe, Germany was a bigger consumer of Amiga software than any other country. Interesting. I mean, I knew there were.
You look at the Amiga scene, the conventions they still have, and they're always the biggest ones.
Yeah. So it makes sense now. So with all that said, this game did get released in Europe, which is why it's one of the reasons it fetches such a hefty fee now on the when you try to buy one. With all that said, Boat, why don't you go over the fine print? How does this game work?
Okay, so you play as a knight, and you have been tasked by the druids to get, I believe that there are four moonstones, and what you have to do is you have to locate the moonstones. You have to
keys.
Are there keys?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to collect the keys. You have to go to Stonehenge, the middle of the place, and then if the moon is right, then you can unlock the power of the moonstones.
Yeah, that's that's pretty much it. Here's the funny thing about this game is, and again, this is much like Dark Tower, is that so there are keys scattered across the map, and when you go to raid different areas, you may find a key. Okay, but the funny thing is, since other knights are in play, plus other things like a dragon, you may go around and not find any key because either another knight or the dragon has the key, and without all the keys, you're pretty much bugged.
Right. And so there's 6 layers. Each layer has each layer has a key. No, I'm sorry. There's 6 layers in each section.
Yeah.
Inside one of those layers, there's a key. You get all 4 keys. You enter the Valley of the Gods, and then you have to defeat the Guardian to get the Moonstone.
Yeah.
Okay. Then of course and how do you go into this? Well, this game plays out. You've got an overworld system where you're represented by the head of your knight, and you have a set number of pixels you can move per turn. And so you are in this game. There's basically 2 phases. You're either moving on the map, or you are doing battle in a combat arena. Now, there's also your light RPG elements in this game where you can visit towns. You can go and you can gamble your money. You can buy potions. You can upgrade your weapons and armor. You can go see a healer, or you can go to the Deminator and get your future. So you have elements of role playing. Again, the D&D element is strong with this, but 90% of the time in this game, you're either moving around the map or you're doing battle with any number of enemy combatants.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well said, Boat. Now, the neat thing is, within the 4 quadrants of the game, like Boat said, you got a couple cities that are on in 2 of the quadrants, but different quadrants sort of will have species that are more prominent there. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't mean you won't see them anywhere else, but you're most, like, for example, rat men might be in one spot, or trolls might be in one spot for the most part. And so you can be sort of be sure that there's going to be coming up, or the mud creatures or whatever. And so it gives you, because when you start a combat in this game, you better be on your toes, because when it starts, you could be killed in 4 seconds, and you could be dead.
Yeah, and we should talk a little bit about the combat. The combat is basically a ripoff of Barbarian.
It is. And it's funny because these guys both love Barbarian.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, you take what you like and you make it your own. So you are able to move around both laterally and vertically in these arenas. They're like little mini arenas. And you have a wide variety of moves that you can perform with your sword. So in this game, you're a knight. You've got a sword. If you don't like it, play another game, because that's the only weapon you've got. You also have some daggers you can throw. And what makes this game interesting is, at least from a combat perspective, is that one, just like you said, there's a wide variety of enemies that appear depending on what geographical location you're in. And 2, you really have full control over your sword. Yeah. You can do pretty much any kind of swipe, parry, or blow you can think of.
Yeah. The combat is pretty well done for a 1-button joystick. Mm-hmm. You've got all the directions of the joystick, including the diagonals for the button. So the things you can do, plus you've also got the space bar, which comes into play. So you've got like a diagonal back will throw your knife, and then the cardinal direction will do different strikes. A lunging strike, like a stabbing strike, a behind the back strike type thing. Then you've also got a dodge, a block, and these all come in handy for different creatures. You're going to need some of these depending on what you're fighting. I mean, yes, you don't necessarily have to kill a creature with a certain sword blow, but some will make you easier. For example, the long lunging strike is great for distance. Guys that have long distance weapons, stuff that comes right up on you, you can use the short stuff. So they come in handy. When you use a space bar, you're activating like one of your magical, potions or scrolls or whatever. So there is the aspect where you have to get on the keyboard to do some of this.
So in addition to fighting monsters, you also sometimes have to contend with your fellow knights, because Moonstone is a multiplayer game. Whether you're playing it solo or not, you're up against 3 other knights, and they are moving around the map, collecting things, and eventually they're going to move up to you, and they're going to try and destroy you.
Right. The fun thing about this is the multiplayer. I mean, deals can still be made if you want to. You could be like, listen, we're us both going to crush this one guy. But I mean, much like most games like that, there's going to be a reckoning at some point where you end up going after each other.
Right.
And then once that happens, this is the point where you can, for example, if one of your opponents got a key, you may want to go hunt him down, kill him, and get that key. It's like a freebie. Mm-hmm. You have to kill any of the monsters if you're good at this. There's also, when you start this game, there's actually a practice mode. It's a pretty lame practice mode, but it does give you the ability sort of like Barbarian to just have a one-on-one combat with with a guy.
It's not the worst way to get familiar with the controls.
That's exactly right. But as far as I could tell, there was no way to fight a computer opponent. You had to fight another human. So that takes away some of the fun of it. And also, there's no way to just go out and fight just bad guys over there, which would have been a lot of fun. You can't do that either. So that's one thing I would have liked to see, a little more enhancement in the area of just like, because one thing, if you're a big fan of Barbarian, even in Barbarian, I mean, you could fight the computer in certain versions of it, and it would be kind of a fun thing to have all the monsters represented, just to have some quick time, because this isn't a quick game.
Right.
It's not like Mortal Kombat or something where you're going to sit down and play a game like 3 or 4 minutes.
No.
This is a game where you set aside an hour or two if you've got the jack,
right,
to go through it. So that would have been something nice. The towns themselves, like Bo mentioned, there's different stuff in them. So what is the real benefit of going to a town? Healing, buying magical weapons. You can gamble for money. I've never had any luck in this game gambling. Have you?
Well, it's a lot of gambling in real life.
The house always wins. Yeah. So I've never had a whole lot of luck doing that.
In the gold, like this game, you really have to, at least for me, I'm not a skilled player at this game, but I played this a lot, and I like this game.
Oh, yeah.
But the gold is slow in coming in this game, and you really feel like you have to fight for it. And I don't like, it's a lot like gambling in real life. I don't like to throw the gold that I've gotten away. I'd rather use it. Now, I'll tell you what's cool. This game operates on a day cycle, okay? So every time every player takes a turn, it goes to the next day, okay? And the game tells you it's the next day.
Yeah.
You will regain your hit points. I believe that you regain 7 hit points per turn. It's pretty generous.
Yeah.
And so once you fight a monster, it's not as if you're screwed immediately. You can either just kill time and hope that like the other knights don't come up on you, or you can go buy a healing potion. You can pay a healer. I wish they were a little bit more upfront about how it works, because the healer's like, give me some money and I'll give you something good. Well, you can give him like 3 or 4 gold, and he's like, here's some herbs, and then it gives you, basically, I wish they would be upfront with like, if you give me this, I'll give you this.
Yeah.
Another thing that's cool is that when you do lose a life, you can actually regain your lives in this game. Did you know about that?
Yeah.
If you go back to your home base, which is where you start the game in your quadrant, there's a little invisible outlined section where you can go to, and if you just hang out there, you will regain your lives.
I think you get up to 3.
Right, and so you can technically play this game forever until you beat it, and a lot of the reviews talk about how easy it is because of that, but for me, I love that because I could make some progress and not always feel like I was starting from scratch.
Well, this game's actually clever in a lot of ways, because there are, aside from just the stuff we've talked about, you can go kill time doing other stuff, which we mentioned, but the sacrifice you make, for example, if you go all the way back to your home village and you're across the map to get more men, you've got to sit there for at least 1 day, if not 3, plus the time it takes to get there. And all the time that you're traveling over there, your opponents are out fighting, gathering resources and whatnot. Something else that can come upon you, even when you're going back to your home base, is there are black knights that roam the map. There's also eventually a dragon starts flying around the map. And if the dragon comes upon you, you've got to throw down with the dragon. Now, there's a cute trick to beat the dragon, which I tried this week, and the cute trick I couldn't get to work, but everyone else apparently can, that you can allegedly beat the dragon really easy. But for your average schmo, the last thing you want is the dragon to come down top of you.
And there's no way to flee these battles.
No.
That's a big flaw in this game. I would appreciate the ability to at least roll the dice, the metaphorical dice, and see if you can get out of these battles, because a lot of times it's just bad luck. Somebody comes up on you, or the dragon just happens to fly over and you hit the button accidentally. I would appreciate the ability to at least attempt to run away from some of these.
It's the coward factor.
That's
I don't know,
right.
if a dragon came up on me, I would just run.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're probably boned. He can fly.
I just lay down and die.
We should mention, we haven't got into the stuff you fight. So when you go to these various crypts and areas and ruins where the key might be, you're going to come across some crazy stuff. I'm going to go over some of the monsters.
You gain 3 hit points back per day, not 7.
There you go. So, for one thing, you've got trogs. These are these guys that have hammers and axes and spears.
They sang Wild Thing,
Yeah,
too.
they did. Hey, they're good stuff, too. Ratmen and Robin. Ratmen are these, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think.
Tell us more about the rat.
Now, Mudmen. These guys are, I want to give a shout out to a great part of this game, okay? And we've all been there. When you first start playing it, or even if you're experienced, when you come upon an area that's muddy, and you're like, okay, this could be the Mudmen. These things are these weird, disgusting creatures that just come out of the ground.
They literally rise from.
And if they can come out of the ground and just grab you and just pull you under.
And that's it. It's
but
over.
when they do it, there's an old school, old time radio organ strike.
Like, yeah.
And it's so perfect.
Yeah, it's very
the
cool.
noise. And then even once the Mudmen are up, if you get in their way, they can shoot these like vines off of them, and they can grab you and suck you in and take you down. They're very nasty, the Mudmen. But they're very cool. We mentioned the dragon. Then you've got the Ballocs. These are, I'm going to read from the manual here, vicious humanoids with huge jaws, long teeth, and powerful limbs. Then you've got the trolls. The trolls are nasty, big, freaky-looking tall guys with clubs. They've got a lot of distance on you. Guys in this game can smash you. They can jump on you. They can eat your head. They can drag you down below. They can cut you in half, cut your head off. Every time you die, it's very seldom is it pretty. That's for darn sure. And even when you're fighting each other, once you've battered the other knight, he'll drop to his knees and let you deliver the shot that will chop his head off.
The coup de grace.
Yeah. If you chop your opponent's head off, besides the fact that you kill his guy, then you go in there and take his stuff too. Jerk move. So there's tons of nasty stuff in this. Not counting the super duper end boss. I don't know if you saw that freak.
No, I didn't get close to the super duper end boss.
There's some great monsters in this. The fellows that I read the interview for said that one of the things they wanted to do, they just ran out of time, was they wanted to have more monsters. They even have more role-playing elements. They ran out of time.
Well, I really feel like the elements that they have are good.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen more statistics around the weapons and the armor, because you know that the claymore is going to be better than the regular sword, but you don't know how much better. And it's hard to make purchasing decisions when you don't know how much of an upgrade you're getting.
Right. We mentioned that you could augment yourself with magic boat. Did you do that often, by the way, when you played?
No, I never I picked up I killed a knight one time, and I picked up the potion of the hawk, and then I forgot to use it, and I died.
So just to go over a few of the things you can pick up, potion of healing, self-explanatory. The gem of seeing is interesting because it lets you look and see what's in a place before you go there.
Oh, that is handy.
So that one's nice. The sword of sharpness, it's just like a super duper sword, you know? Then you've got the ring of protection, self-explanatory. This one I never saw, Talisman of the Worm. This makes dragons half as effective with their attacks. You know, but still, I'm not sure that would help me.
Maybe it was Scroll of Haste that I got, not Scroll of the Hawk.
I
prefer Scroll of the Hawk.
Scroll of the Hawk sounds awesome. I've never heard of that. That one makes you fly. That gives you Beastmaster-like powers. Yeah. Please don't bring that back up, for God's sakes. Scroll of Haste, you can move twice as far. Now, this is a good one. Scroll of Acquisition.
There it is. Scroll of the Hawk.
It is Scroll
I wasn't
of the Hawk.
hallucinating.
Let's see what it does. It allows you to move to any location into 4 territories except for the Valley of the Gods. So it's a teleport spell.
Oh, I like it.
Pretty good, Boat. So anyway, there's lots of scrolls in this thing. You know, and of course the Moonstone as well. When you get that, you move to the center. And like you said, with the phases of the moon. We should also mention that, I don't know if you mentioned this, but as the moon phases go, the fuller the moon, the more damage, the more deadly your opponents are. So you've got to be careful.
How do you know where the moon, what phase
at the end of the turn? When you start to turn, it shows it on the screen.
See, I never noticed that. Now, I searched all, I didn't look at the docs, I probably should have, but I looked around and I was like, where is the freaking moon phase? I didn't even think about, like, the next day, time passes. Yeah. That's where the moon is. It's freaking right there in front of you.
It's funny, when we reviewed this, but way, way back, we never mentioned the phase, I don't really think we touched the phase of the moon, and I'm not sure I knew about that until in the last few years. We actually played this at, what was it, Amigathon that we played this?
Yeah.
And I was kicking it back. And so this week I had tons more success than I've had in the past.
Yeah, this is the best time around that I've played it. Now,
so I felt pretty good about this go around.
I was reading some reviews of this game and they were talking about one of the big problems they have with, because these guys, they powered through it. I guess these reviewers, they play so many games, everything's easy to them.
Yeah.
But they were talking about one of the big headaches of this game is even after you collect all of the keys, you can't move into the Valley of the Gods and get the Moonstone unless the moon is in the proper phase.
Right.
So then you're just waiting around, and it's more time for the other knights to gang up on you and destroy you.
But that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
And it's also, that's what would make this a for humans place would be more fun. Although the computer does a good job.
I'll tell you the worst part about this game is the worst part of the multiplayer game is the fact that this is a 4-person game. 2 people can play at once, but you have to use one stick to move around. Okay, and what happens is when you want to move south, so you move south. Well, your guy runs out of action points. It immediately switches to the next player, and he starts moving south. You're wasting his points, even if you're not trying to screw your buddy.
That happened to us a few times when we played this with multiplayer. There are some elements, but you can tell when it's funny because I don't think people look at this like, I look at this a lot like Dark Tower now. And Dark Tower is a board game, okay? And I think that's sort of what they had in mind here. So almost like an Archon or something. But there were a few things they could have done better. What you mentioned is one. Another thing they could have done, this seems obvious, there's no save feature in this game. And these games could go on for a while. So even if you're playing by yourself, that's when you'd really want to be able to save the game. And that was an oversight. They mentioned that when they were interviewed. They also mentioned, and I noticed this a few times, this game's buggy. You can get caught in these weird things where you can't defend yourself and you just get killed. And the one of the co-creators, they were like, which basically I thought we caught all the bugs, we just ran out of time. It's the old, it's the same old, same old. It's funny you should mention the review. Did you read into a lot of the reviews for this?
Yeah. This game was a mixed bag.
It really, when I looked over the reviews for this thing, so you think to yourself, I mean, because let's dot the I's and cross the T's here. Graphically, this game's near the top.
Yeah.
It looks great. The animation's great. The death scene's great. Musically, excellent.
There's a lot of variety in the backgrounds. You got your swamps, your forests.
Yeah, they put in a lot of nice touches that I like. They did stuff they didn't have to do. The overland map is nice. The monsters are nice. They're varied. Should there be more? Would that be nice? Yes. But again, given the situation, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you would think to yourself, well, heck, this game must have killed it. All right. Well, no, it's sort of like Bo said, it's a mixed bag. I looked over the reviews on Lemon. Now, Lemon gives an 8.65. They're all for it. But the reviews are back in the day, and I eliminated any re-reviews because, that was dumb. So Amiga Action gave this a 90. They were the only ones that gave this anything a 90 or above. You've got an 89 for Amiga Computing. Amiga Force gave us an 80. Amiga Format gave us a 59. Amiga Joker, a 54. Amiga Power, 73. These scores are stunning to me, Boat. The one gives an 82.
Well, I've got a theory.
Yeah.
Okay, this game came out in 1991.
Right.
This is the worst possible timing to come. You didn't want to release in 91, because guess what else came out in 91? Lemmings, Monkey Island 2, Another World, Speedball 2, Turrican 2, James Pond 2, Alien Breed. These are the heaviest of the heavy hitters.
Well,
it was when you're putting this game up against those, I mean, it's not Lemmings, I can tell you that.
Well, I think it would set quite nicely with a lot of those games, if I'm honest. But you're right, that is a death row. A lot of people don't realize that this boat also got ported over to the PC, if you can believe it. PC version, I haven't played it, but I had a look at it, and it looks pretty similar. It doesn't sound as good as you can imagine. I heard, now the fellows that made the game mentioned that they did not do the port. Mindscape hired some people to port the game. So your mileage may vary on that, but since we have an Amiga, we never have to care. But it is on DOS.
It's funny. I wonder if the prices for the DOS version of this game approach the prices for the Amiga version.
I looked with that exact same, because I thought to myself, hey, maybe I can sneak in the back door here.
Right.
No one will know what's on the shelf. Well, I couldn't find any PC versions and couldn't find any that had sold.
It's funny because I was talking to my cousin last night, who's a big old school RPG guy, and he says that whenever he's looking for gold box games and stuff like that, he says the Amiga ones are much more common than the DOS ones, which blew my mind. Because you'd think here in the States, but I guess maybe everybody that's got the DOS versions is holding on to it.
I would assume the DOS versions got bought up real quick, It's funny because when we were at Cocoa Fest, I saw a huge box of like 20 gold box games and some silver box games. And I think they were all for either the C64 or DOS. So there you go. But yeah, this game, if you're looking to get hold of it, It's going to cost you. I did look just for fun to see what they were going for on the eBay boat. And now there's a couple wacky things here when it comes to eBay pricing. So I looked this up, and so get this. I found someone on eBay selling a CD32 version of this.
Really?
Which I couldn't understand because it was never officially released. So I'm assuming this is some kind of hack job.
Oh, okay.
I also saw someone selling some kind of weird bootleg version for the Dreamcast.
That's weird.
That's a weird one. I couldn't find any video for either one of these. Okay, so your mileage may vary. I did see one set of the PC game. It sold for $65. There's a sealed copy of this game in Germany right now, $3,000. In fact, I saw someone also post that in their Discord.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it ain't cheap, brother. I will say if you're into this game, the interview that I reference a lot, it can be found over at Moonstone Tavern. It's a fan page. If you just Google that, it's been around forever. Now there's links on the board to talk about other versions of this game, and I wanted to mention this, but in closing, before we get to the user reviews, and apparently throughout history, people have tried to do something with the IP. Either, I'm talking fans, and I know at some point there has been something, but whatever was there is gone now. So I don't know how far people got into that. The guys that made this have talked about how much they would enjoy doing a sequel for this.
Can you imagine the gore level? Remember when Shadow of the Beast got re-released and it was just over the top? This would be ultra over the top.
I will say, if they were to do a sequel to this, I wouldn't change that much. I like what they've got here. I mean, add more monsters, maybe streamline some of the gameplay. Add multi-button support, maybe add multi-joystick support would be fun. Maybe even have it where you could have 3 or 4 knights fight at once. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, you've got something pretty solid here gameplay-wise. Did we get much action on Discord this week for reviews?
Our first review comes in from David Hearn Ryder. He says, I remember playing this for the first time and enjoying some fighting action against a fellow knight. It was pretty, gory, and a whole lot of fun. Moving around the map, I had further fisticuffs and collected some items RPG style. This was all going well. Then, relaxing and looking forward to the next fight as one of my mini discs chugged away, I reached for a snack as my knight appeared on screen. I'd get ready in just a moment, no rush after all. I dropped my snack cold as the sound of an organ burst forth and a freaking tree-bodied, skull-faced monster burst from the ground and reached out to steal my knight's soul, Evil Dead style.
Yeah.
This scared the living daylights out of me, and I'd never seen anything like it. I fumbled for the joystick, finally managed to kill this abomination, only to find another rose to take its place. I lost a life in the game, and almost for real. Moonstone should have been packaged with a spare pair of underwear. 9 out of 10. Lord Soup writes, Moonstone, fun alone, fun with your friends. Atmospheric, graphically stunning, well animated, great sounds. Even plays okay on a one-button stick. Just a great game. One of my favorite games of its time, and I have loads of fond memories of cutting my friends' heads off or getting impaled on a lunge. HD remake, please. Excellent. 9 out of 10. Lobsterminator writes, a lot of good has been said about this game and all it's deserved. I have many good memories of playing this with my friends. To think of some minor gripe, judging by modern standards, the moves and animations in the combat are quite delayed, so you need to learn how to time them. Snappier controls might make the combat more visceral, especially when facing another knight. A classic 9 out of 10. Pajako 6502 writes, a hard day's night. Most accurate tagline ever. A game so punishing that even Dark Souls fans think this one is a bit much. Okay, I made that part up, but it could be true. This is Barbarian cranked up to 11, and if you're not cheesing this one by pulling the same head chop move again and again. I have been eviscerated, beheaded, burned, squished, hung, strangled, buried alive, and eaten. If there is a gruesome way to buy the farm, this game will do it. I started surviving for longer the more I played, so I think a few more nights with this and I will be a master. Nice pun there. Great graphics and sound is a bit sparse, but it works well. My only complaints are the time it takes for other knights to move around, having to click through the next day screen and having to use the keyboard sometimes. You'll need to sink some time into this to get good, But under the harsh exterior, it's a tough game that will make you its B word. And now for the shocker, I actually like this game, 8 out of 10. And finally, Pixels at Dawn, Monster Moderator writes, while I know this did have a minor release on PC, I will always think of this as an Amiga exclusive. And what an exclusive! This is a very unique feeling game. It has action, it has strategy, it has role-playing, it has some of the most exciting multiplayer combat on the platform. I love the look of Moonstone, and I love the atmosphere. It has the feeling of a game that is packed with secrets just on the edge of discovery. While I think it's a good single-player game, it really comes into its own with one or more human opponents. Multiple players sweeping around the map, each with their own goals and objectives, really gives the feeling of a huge work. The version I had back in the day had a few issues where it could crash in certain situations, but the fact we were still happy to risk hours of gameplay being canceled out says a great deal about how much fun this game is. It is, however, very hard. Each fight has its own tactics to really do well, and you need to master them. And Mr. Red Dragon is quite happy to take you out at a moment's notice. Still, a fantastic game that I go back to time and again, 9 out of 10.
You know, a couple of people mentioned the controls. I did want to touch on that before we close the door on this. One thing I do like about this game is the sword play. And the reason is, I've got a huge sword, okay, in real life.
I haven't seen that. Where
it's in the house. I think it's beside the hot water heater.
Oh, okay.
Amazing. That's where you keep your sword.
That's where I keep mine.
Because I used to work for a guy that made and dealt in old weapons. It's a long story.
This was Master Don.
It was Master Don. It's amazing your memory for the stupid. So anyway, these swords, it's not like in games. You don't whip these things around like Zorro. Zorro fought with a freaking foil or something.
Yeah,
these things are rapier. These swords are heavy. They're big, heavy, like Claymore type swords. And so the stiffness of the controls, to me, is to emulate the weight of that sword and whipping it around.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
And so I like that aspect of it. And something else we didn't touch on, and we didn't touch this on the last time, one touch it real quick, is that this game has stats, like D&D stats, right? And so you can actually up your stats as you get to the game. There's strength, there's endurance, and so which is a nice aspect. So that's another role-playing element to make the game more fun. That's something they could probably have done more with, if they were disking. And by the way, I was just thinking about this while we were listing those reviews. This would have been a perfect game for the A500 Mini. This is, if we went back and picked games for that again, like, they dropped the ball on a lot of these games, because this is another one that's almost an Amiga exclusive, and this one, you could play this today, you could show your friends this today, and they would be stunned today.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying? It would have been a perfect game for that one. But overall, what do you think? You still down?
100% down.
I think it's a great game, and it's always a lot of fun for us.
If you ask any Amiga repair technician what the most problematic component of a motherboard is, they'll undoubtedly mention capacitors. The electrolytic capacitors that shipped with the Amiga are 30 years old or older at this point, and each one is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode battery acid all over your motherboard, sometimes damaging it irrevocably. Don't wait. Replace your capacitors now. Full capacitor kits for every Amiga model are available now at RetroRewind.ca. Don't want to attempt the repair yourself? Use their white glove recap service and leave the intricate removal and soldering process to the professionals using industry standard equipment. Use the promo code Amigos10 at checkout and save 10% off your cap kit or service. Remember, make RetroRewind.ca your first stop for all your Commodore computer needs.
Amiga News.
Yeah, man.
All right, Aaron, we kick things off. Listen, it's that time of the month again, the most glorious time of the month. It's a new issue of Amiga Addict magazine, and man, they have rebounded since that couple covers ago with Dana Carvey. I know that you hated that. Have they redeemed themselves?
Well, I don't
Aaron?
hate it. It's just it was goofy to me.
You called it the worst cover of all time.
I did not. That's not true, Boat. Would you shut up about that? This is dandy. It's a very Warholian, Plus, it's got everyone's favorite story on the cover here: AGA Games Roundup, Boat.
Listen, you skipped that one. But I'll tell you what you don't skip. I'm going to give you a rundown of what they got. They've got an interview with Ron Nicholson, one of the original Amiga designers.
Neat.
There is a new Castlevania game we played on Amigathon, Maria Renard's Revenge.
Yeah.
There's a review of that. There's, of course, reports about all of the latest Amiga user groups. You got your NAG, you got your swag, you got all those AGs out there.
There's a lot of them, and there are more every day.
There's more every day. There is Paul chats with a guy named Dave Upchurch of the One Amiga, one of those old mags, from back in the day. So tons and tons of high quality content. Listen, if you are not already subscribed, head over to Amiga-Addict right now and sign yourself up. This is, we want to keep print media alive, and we want to keep the Amiga alive. You can kill two birds with one stone by purchasing yourself a subscription, 12 high-quality issues of Amiga Addict magazine. We love the work they're doing over there.
I just see one of these articles here. I want to just touch on you real quick. It's Amiga Bill gives the latest on the Bifrost Heimdall edition of the computer. Have you seen Bill this thing?
No.
This is we gotta put this in the news. It's Bill opened this on the stream a couple weeks ago. It's this skinned Amiga that he got in the mail.
That sounds nasty.
And it's one of the nuttiest things I've ever seen. And it comes with its own game. That's what makes it wacky.
Oh, that's very weird.
That's definitely something I'm gonna read. Faux show. Yeah. Listen, it's a great mag. Get it now. It's Amiga Addict. Come on. It's the Amigos. If you're watching this show, you must be an Amiga Addict.
That's right. Now, if you're watching this show, you're probably also familiar with Doug from Dynamic Computing.
I heard of him.
He's got a new video, Aaron, and this is all about the Commodore Amiga A10 speakers.
Yeah.
Okay. Now these speakers, he comes right out and he's like, these are rebranded like JBL speakers.
Yeah.
They're not particularly nice.
No.
They're not particularly good sounding. But gosh darn it if they don't have the Commodore logo on them.
You know what that means? How to refurb these suckers.
That's right. Back in the day, Aaron, were you such an Amiga fan that you would have gone out of your way to have some Commodore branded speakers?
Hell no. I'm not that big a friend now. These little dud speakers, these things are generic as anything.
Lab Tech speakers. Thank you, Commodore Chronicles.
These look like any set of speakers from the 80s right here, or early 90s. Just like little boxy speakers. I've tossed 100 of these things in my lifetime. Not Commodore ones, but just regular ones. How'd he do it? I get to see this video. Did he get it fixed?
He opens it up. At first, I thought he was going to give Frank some business, as he has been known to do in the past.
Yeah.
But he did a good job. He got out the old soldering iron.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And he went to town on this thing. This doesn't look to be the most difficult soldering project of all time. He takes care of business. He fires them up. They sound okay. When you're watching a video on your phone, you don't know how speakers sound anyway because you're watching through your phone. But he said they sounded okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Listen, people have their thing. Good for you, Doug. I didn't catch that video, but I'm glad Doug got his speakers working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get some better speakers, Doug. Take these things, put them in a shoebox, sell them. Give them he's an Amiga maniac, so maybe you can find another one, Boat.
Now, this next video, Aaron, of course, everybody knows one of the biggest retro YouTubers is this guy Jan Beta.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's done all kinds of Amiga stuff in the past. But what maybe include this? This is a new video by him, by the way.
Yeah.
This is a Amiga 500 power supply repair attempt.
Oh man.
And I thought about our power supply when we first started the Amigos. Tell us about what we did with the Amiga 500, Aaron.
Well. What didn't we do with the Amiga, the old House 500 we used to call it? Well, we never really got to work in power supply, so we sort of had to make our own, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We sent to Poland. The people in Poland, they know. Mm-hmm. They know secrets that most men fear. Mm-hmm. And one of the secrets they knew was how to convert an old AT-style power supply over to your Amiga. Mm-hmm. And so we sent over... And about a month later, this thing showed up, and I had some ancient AT. I mean, they were ancient AT power supplies, complete with a switch, with a little spring, Mm-hmm. And I gave all this thing to Boat, and here's the computer, here's the power supply, here's the Polish converter thing, and then Boat. You did your Boat magic, didn't you?
I did. I took an old shoebox.
Yeah.
And I used my power drill. I drilled some holes in that sucker for proper ventilation.
Yeah.
Stuck it right in there.
Yeah, and I will say, when we retired the box, the almost certainly flammable box, it worked every day we ever used it without fail, didn't it? We never had any trouble with this thing. It worked continuously. So it's always ready to come back into service.
Yeah.
Something tells me that this fellow did probably a more thorough job
Yeah,
than you
so
did.
what Jan is doing is he's actually repairing the power supply rather than writing array from Poland. But listen, this is a long video. It's a half hour long. And this is no easy thing that he's doing. I guess there's a lot of things that can go wrong with power supplies. So he goes through several different things that it could be. And I'm not, to be honest with you, I did not finish this video, so I do not know if he was. It got to be. There's only so much power supply action I can take.
You of all people don't need to watch it. You've done this already. Where's your video? I will say Frank just commented a drill for a cardboard box.
Listen, I had to get the. I was in my mind. I was picturing drilling these pixel perfect holes in there.
Yeah.
What happened was the drill bit into that cardboard. The whole box started spinning around, and I just threw the whole thing down.
I love it. Why didn't that surprise me, bud? Listen, I thought you did a good job by putting something that could almost certainly explode into something that would make the fire more intense. Well done, Boat. I don't think did we ever get a power supply for that thing? I mean, it didn't come with one, did it?
I mean, the shoebox served us well.
We had no choice.
Yeah.
We had to drill holes in a cardboard box. That's the way we do it around here. Hillbilly power. I mean, those are the halcyon days of the Amiga.
That's right.
We couldn't even get an Amiga to play any of the games. We were screwed all the time.
And then we fired it up, and all the games were still in power. So,
jeez.
Here we go, Aaron. This is a physical gift that we received. A lot of people may not be aware of. There is a good man, and he's got a website over at phoenix-noir.de.
Spelled cool guy style.
This guy is I wish I could tell you his name. Let's look at the actual CD here. This is Patrick Nevian.
Yeah.
Okay. Patrick got in touch with Aaron, I believe it was through our Facebook page.
Yes, correct.
A couple weeks ago, and he said, "Listen, man, I want to send you this new collection of piano pieces that I have performed that are they're all based on the tunes of Chris Hulsbeck."
Hold that up, and I'll put you on mega view. Here, look at that.
So this is the Chris Hulsbeck Piano Collection Volume 2, The Player's Choice. Okay,
I like that.
Yeah, this has got tons of great tunes on it. We listened to this last night as we were foolishly trying to apply soundproofing to the roof of the studio.
It's still up there for the most of it.
Yeah, most of it's still up. You've got your Apidias on here, great Guiana Sisters, of course, Turrican, but even some lesser known, some deep Hulsbeck cuts like Rock and Roll and The Adventures of Quick and Silva.
Yeah.
So you can head on over to phoenix-noir.de and pick yourself up one of these. These are available for you right now. And as always, all of these links are over at Amiga News, the subreddit, the Amiga News subreddit.
Now, what did you think of the album? But now we listened to the whole. I listened to the whole thing twice, and now you listened to it at least once. Give us as a musical man, what did you think of this album?
This guy is a skilled pianist, and he does a good job at translating the different sort of styles of music, because not everything Hulsbeck does is upbeat Turrican style. He's got some more reflective pieces too.
Right.
And he does a really good job of translating all of that orchestration onto the piano.
I will say that I'm a big fan of the theme from Apidia. That's what I talked about with you last night. This is the most laid-back cocktail rendition of, if you can imagine slowing down Apidia to a something you would hear, like, I don't know, at your local library or something. That's what it sounded like to me. I will say this, I couldn't get that out to save my life. If you get the CD, you've got the little booklet here. Look at that. The man himself. I found the music, the actual sound qualities, studio perfect.
Well, this guy's day job is he does mixing and mastering.
Yeah, well, there you go.
He's a professional
So
producer.
you're not getting it's not like I recorded this on my Rock Band mic. This is a full, straight up album. If you like the Hughes, and who doesn't, and you like sort of this laid-back groove that a piano will get you, I recommend it. I really enjoyed it. He also gives us a little USB stick with the audio on it, so thanks for sending that over for review. We really enjoyed it, and if you've got the mood for this isn't something you're going to play every day, but if you've got a nice, quiet setting, or you're reading, or something like that, this is a good groove.
Absolutely.
It was great for hanging tiles last night. We used it quite nicely.
It's good tile hanging.
That's
music.
right, good tile.
All right, Aaron, we've got one game story this week. This is, as reported by Indie Retro News, Cyberpunks 2 is being released next week on the Amiga, Aaron. Next week Okay.
Is there a Cyberpunks 1?
Well, it's apparently so. I guess the original Cyberpunks was a top-down shooter that was one of these core design games.
Yeah.
That was released in '93. This game, is this game introduces 2-player action. You've got multiple levels. I'm trying to scroll. It looks very similar to some sort of a top-down arcade shooter, sort of Alien Breed-esque.
Let's have a look at this thing, Boat.
It looks really, really good.
Look at that opening there. You got your ship, the whole 9 yards. Let's see what the actual gameplay looks like. Let's get into it here.
I'm gonna have to skip ahead.
It's your classic Amiga game.
Right.
Oh, here we go. That looks pretty good. Save Amiga Bill.
Oh yeah, Amiga Bill's totally in this game too. See him over there? He's being manhandled by the alien.
Man, do you think that would really happen?
Yeah, if aliens invaded, listen, if I was an alien, I'd want to manhandle Amiga Bill.
Do you? Listen, I got no answer for that. But I'm just saying, of all the people to pick on, you're going to go get Bill? He's got hordes of fridges. Go get someone that no one likes and then beat the crap out of them.
Well, you want me to come get you?
Well, listen, you would come rescue me if the aliens were smacking me around.
I'd be the first in line to rescue you.
Yeah, I don't believe you for a second, Boat. This looks fun, Boat. I'm down.
Yeah.
This looks okay to me.
And finally, Aaron, we have a video by the incomparable Dan Wood.
Yeah.
Tell us about this one.
So Dan, this is something that I was first introduced to by Edvin when he was showing off his ability to have YouTube videos on his Amiga. Remember we talked this a while back?
Edvin is really the pioneer with this.
Well,
Dan is just kind of following behind.
Edvin's the first guy I saw do it. I'm going to give Edvin credit here. Edvin Helen. Boy, I hated that. If you're watching now, he just showed the Angry Video Game there blowing up the Amiga.
We've already been canceled, by the way, for showing Angry Video Game.
I hope Dan's in the clear. So what Dan does, he basically takes his juiced up CD32, does the deal where he downloads YouTube videos and then plays them, different qualities of the videos on his CD32. Kind of neat. I mean, we talked this before. You're not really, you are watching YouTube videos, but it's the long distance runaround. You got to download them. You got to convert them. Dan says, listen, he goes, go have a cold one, get a beer, whatever, go have dinner, then come back and that's at the lowest. But he does go through the different types of quality you can get. You can get pretty good quality. He also surfs the web with his CD32. And he does that with using this gimmick for the same people that did the YouTube thing. And in that, it literally takes a picture of the page and sends it to your Amiga. This is wackery on a grand scale.
Oh yes.
But I got to give Dan credit for giving it a shot because it was a beyond wacky. But if we always like Dan stuff. Check him out if you get a chance. You might find this interesting if this is your cup of tea, Boat.
Yeah. Now, Aaron, what's been going on over on the old YouTube channel?
Well, we've got a few releases, but let me say something right now, everybody. We have had one heck of a good week on the channel. We appreciate everybody for checking us out. A lot of our videos get a lot of action, and we thank you very much for checking it out. Tell your friends, right? As they say. This week, Roy, on our main channel, we've just really got one new item. But
probably why we've had such a good week.
One item. Yeah, but the old stuff's killing it. That's what it is, Boat. And the item is myself and the Brent, and we're playing a little Philips VG5000, Boat. Everybody likes the VG5000. I'd never heard of the VG5000, but we give it a shot. Play a couple fun games. This thing's a pretty remedial system, Boat, if I'm honest with you. Over on the stream team, we've got a stream by 48K RAM, the Macintosh Madness stream, where he gets in there and he's messed around with his Mac. And then we've also got Happy Coding's continuing saga, making the game with Happy Coding. So please, check out both the Amiga stream team and the Amiga Retro Game channels. Like and subscribe. It's good for you.
If you are going to be around this coming Friday, first of all, get ready for another Thursday recording of Amigos next week, because this Friday, it's all going down over at the India Center on Corridor G. Battleground Wrestling returns.
Oh, man.
For a card like no other card we've had since we've started working with the team over at BGW.
We've been waiting for this one because it's been a long time since we did wrestling, but we're back at the India Center. Myself, the Southern Dandy, John Budokar-Schaller, Professor Wrestling will be there, Tim Legg, and Jimmy Hart will be there. Tito Santana will be there, Boat. A lot of really cool big-time stars are going to be coming to town for this show. It should be great. And if you've been watching, if you're a steady watcher, this will be the matchup. Bam! It's going to be Gen Z taking on the Celtic Tiger.
That's right.
The match we can't wait for, Boat.
We can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun. And of course, we'd be remiss, Boat, if we didn't talk about your namesake festival. Holy smokes, it's Boat Fest 2023. It keeps getting more exciting. We talked to a lot of people about Boat Fest this weekend at Cocoa Fest, and I think we raised a little action up there, Boat. Tell them about Boat Fest.
Boat Fest is a annual computer exhibition in lovely downtown Hurricane, West Virginia. Join us in a crowd of dozens. The room above the Copper Pub, or the Copper Room above the Irish Pub on Main Street of Hurricane. Boatfest.info. Get your tickets now.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Boat.
It is.
Shall we?
Let's
see what's going on next week.
Let's see what we're playing next week.
Everybody says, bam. How about a little new stuff, Boat?
Yeah.
It's Xevious / Super Xevious.
We are
next
celebrating
week.
episode 400 with a new and exciting arcade port for the Amiga, Xevious / Super Xevious.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome.
That was a weird way to say it, but I'll buy it. Listen, tune in next week, episode 400, the big one.
Yeah, and we do want to thank all of our patrons, everybody that watches us live, twitch.tv / Amigos Retro Gaming, guys. Thank you. We want to thank our moderators, Super Tech Boy, Pixels at Dawn. We will see you all next week, and until then,
Adios.
When